Welcome to this podcast series, Things That I Am Passionate About. Basically, this series came to be because I wanted to give myself a playground in which I allow myself to express about things that I just actually, if I give myself the space, cannot stop talking about. On platforms like social media, Instagram, you always have a limited amount of time, a limited amount of space. There's always this sort of rush with it. And with this podcast, I wanted to give myself endless space to express whatever wants to be expressed. So you'll find different topics in this series, themes that often are also present in the work that I do as a empowerment coach and spiritual mentor. I work in group settings, which I call the satsang, or I work in one-on-one settings, which I call the mentorship. And all these themes somehow come up with people that I work with. It's themes that I'm so passionate about that literally I cannot stop talking about it, and also topics that I feel deserve more attention and deserve more depth than they usually receive on platforms such as social media. So today what I wanted to talk about is basically let's call it an epiphany, an aha-erlebnis, a moment of, oh my God, that I had myself a few weeks ago that I really want to share with you. Before I start, I just want to ask you to, when you're listening to this podcast, take a moment, first of all, to settle yourself down. Or maybe if you're walking somewhere, it's fine as well, but allow this podcast to be something that you're not just listening to while cleaning up the house or doing your job. And the reason for this is that I'm going to talk about some things that rationally might not make sense. And that's okay. I don't want you to overthink what I'm going to tell you. I don't even want you per se to understand what I'm going to tell you. What I want, or what I'm hoping for, is that you can receive some of the information on a different level, or that you can receive the intention behind it, or that you can receive the vibration behind it. And for this, I don't need you to understand it per se, but what would be beautiful is if you can settle yourself down in wherever space you are right now and just take a moment for yourself to really allow yourself to be with this podcast. Allow whatever other things you have on your to-do list to put them aside, and just to take a moment that you notice, okay, I'm sitting here, or I'm walking here. And just notice the chair that you're sitting on, or the couch that you're maybe lying on, or notice the path that you're walking on right now. And just really take a moment to become aware of the fact I am here and I am now. Becoming aware of the body in the space. If you want, you can also take a moment to just close your eyes and just take a really nice deep breath in through your nose. And then slowly breathe out through your mouth. And just do that 2 more times. So take another deep breath in through your nose. Slowly breathing out through your mouth. And the last one, deep breath in through the nose. And as you breathe out through your mouth, just allow your body to relax a little bit more. Shoulders can relax, your belly can relax. And again, just feel where you're sitting right now or where you're walking right now. You and your body are right here, right now. And then just imagine and decide for yourself that not only am I putting my to-do list aside for just a moment. For this moment, I'm going to put my thoughts aside as well. I'm going to put my beliefs aside. I'm going to put my worries aside. I know that I am protected, so I can relax. And as I relax, I can open up a little bit to whatever wants to be received today. And so, what I wanted to talk with you about today, or what I wanted to share with you today, is a feeling or a realization that I had a few weeks ago, which was the realization that we have absolutely nothing to lose. And if you've listened to podcasts of mine before, or if you've worked with me before, if you follow me on Instagram, stuff like that, you probably noticed that I speak and work a lot with basically undoing layers of identities, unraveling stories, breaking free from patterns. The main drive that I have for myself in my life, and also the ambition or the wish that I have for the people that I work with, is a sense of ultimate freedom, of being live. And what I mean with this is that as we go through life, multiple lives, we gather a lot of things. We gather stories, we gather beliefs, we gather protection mechanisms, we gather fears, we gather identities. And there's nothing wrong with this. It's a very natural thing that happens. It's just that because it often happens, or almost always happens, unconsciously, we don't realize necessarily the impact that it has on us. And like I said, if you follow me, if you've listened to other podcasts, you already know a little bit more about what I'm saying here. Because what I mean is that we as human beings often completely identify ourselves with the way we look, the way we think, the job that we have, the relationships that we're in, the social situation that we're in, maybe the country that you're from. All the things that we have gathered around ourselves, including this body, we become so identified with it that it limits us in such a way that if something changes, we get scared, or we get super uncomfortable, or because we think we are in such a way and nothing else, we stop looking further, or we don't see that there's other possibilities for us out there. And the example that I always give, and I gave it in another episode as well, is that to just give you a brief understanding of what I mean with you are not your identity, is that if tomorrow we paint your hair orange, or maybe if you have orange hair, we paint it black, you look differently, people see you differently, but deep down inside, you feel still like you. If the day after we chop off your arm, again, you look differently, you will move differently, you will probably have to do a different job, but deep down inside, you still feel you. If today your opinion is that, I always have to come up with new ideas. If today your opinion is that it's okay to eat meat, and in a few months' time you've read some articles and actually you decide it's not such a good idea for the world or for your body to eat meat, your opinion has changed, but you as a person are still you. If today you feel absolutely happy and content with life, but in a few months' time something happened and you're really upset and angry and you want to change everything around again, you're still you. So what we're saying is that no matter what you change in your body, in your looks, no matter how your thoughts change, no matter how your opinions change, no matter how your feelings change, there's something inside of you that no matter what changes, it's always there and it's always you. And this you that I'm talking about, this essence of you, doesn't have anything to do with the identities that we speak about. Because I know also we say things like, oh, I didn't feel like myself the other day. Or I went to this party and I was being super extroverted even though I didn't want to, and I really didn't feel like I was myself. Okay, in terms of personality, you were not feeling aligned with how you wanted to be or how you feel most comfortable. But underneath that, you are still you and you can still feel you. It's just that the layers around it, in terms of personality, in terms of opinions and thoughts and emotions, they can change. They can feel more or less aligned with what you want or what feels right for you. But underneath it, there's an essence, there's a core that is you, and that's not changing, that is not dependent on anything or anyone around you. So when you see that there's actually multiple versions of you, multiple layers around this essence that you truly are, it becomes very interesting to see how we move through life, what decisions we make, what the decisions that we make are based on, what they are inspired by. Because when you understand that actually all these layers that we have built, either because people told you that you are in such a way or that you should be in a certain way, or because you feel very comfortable being in such a way, or it's expected that you are in such a way, they're all just layers, they're all stories. And it is very comfortable to stick with these stories. As a human being, we feel most comfortable if we act in accordance with what we expect from ourselves or what other people expect from us. And this, I always envisioned it really as basically just a bunch of circles around each other. Whereas you have the core as a circle, and around it is a circle that is a certain identity, and around that one is another layer that is a personality trait, and around that is another layer that is a protection mechanism, and so on, so on, so on, so on. And every time you become aware of the fact that you are now coming from a certain layer or a certain protection mechanism or a certain pattern, you have the ability to decide, do I want to act in accordance with this pattern, with this identity, or do I want to break free from it? Do I want to move beyond it? Not to say that it's bad to stick with the personality traits or with the things that feel comfortable. It's just that you have to realize, and I'm very passionate about this, as a human being, in every decision that you make, you have the chance to decide how you want to act. Do I want to act in accordance with this pattern, with this protection mechanism, with what is expected of me, or what I think I am, or do I want to choose differently? Because, for example, it is more supportive for my growth, it's more supportive for the people that I am working with right now, it's more supportive for the world. You can always decide how you want to act. For example, to make it a bit more clear, let's do it like this. When I was in high school, I was quite introverted. I was very much in my head. I took school quite seriously. I didn't feel comfortable in the school system anyway. I didn't agree with how people were treating each other. It was just not my place to be. I had one or two friends, but they didn't get along with each other. So I was sort of in my own little bubble kind of thing. And I was tired a lot. So I was also sort of protecting myself from too much input and too much intensity. Blah. And I remember when I went to study, I moved to a different city, or I didn't move, but I went to a university in a different city where none of my friends or anyone that I knew went to. So I remember standing on the train station to go to that city for the first time. And I remember very clearly deciding for myself, from now on, I'm going to be an extrovert. Because I felt that because I was so introverted throughout those 6 years in high school, that I had missed out on certain things, on some joy and adventure and things that I was starting to long for. So, standing on the train station, I had decided for myself from now on, I'm going to be an extrovert. And I know this sounds very strange, but this is how you can do it. And it's not difficult to change something like that, because the only thing you have to do is look around you. What do people do that you consider being an extrovert, and just do that? So I decided to be more outgoing, to speak out loud, to give my opinion. And of course, I was nervous in the beginning because I wasn't used to it, but also no one knew me there. So it just felt like a fresh start, because they couldn't compare me to my old me. They couldn't say like, oh, but you always used to be like this, or I didn't know you were like that. To them, I was new, so I could start however I wanted, which was a great opportunity. I decided that I was going to be an extrovert. And because I knew it was going to support me and my growth, I knew it was going to give me the opportunity to make more friends, to go on adventures, to just experience things that actually I wanted to experience. Did I feel like I was not me? No, because I'm always me, no matter what I do. Of course, in the beginning, I felt a bit like, oh, is this, um, it's new, it's uncomfortable. I also wasn't sure if I was overdoing it or underdoing it. I was just finding my way in being an extrovert. And as the years passed, I also came to a point where sometimes I realized actually I am overdoing it now, and it's not supporting anymore because it's draining me, or I see other people actually it's not doing the thing that I want. And also at one point coming to a point where I realized it's been enough. It's okay. Like I can tune it down again. I can choose when to be an extrovert. And I think in the last years I've become more introverted again, and really going outwards in my expression whenever I really feel like it is aligned. So in those years of changing basically personality, I never felt like I wasn't me. I just felt I was always just looking for in how far can I go for it to still feel aligned and for it to still be supportive of what I want for myself and or the people around me. So this is important to realize, that you can adjust in accordance to what is needed for you or for whatever situation you're in. If you are somewhere, if you tend to be introverted and more of a follower type, but you come in a place where there's absolute chaos and you just see what is needed, then maybe the most supportive thing that you can do is actually step up as an extroverted leader. It might feel uncomfortable, but it might be the most supportive for the greater good at that moment. So when you see personality as something that you can play with, the identification of it becomes loose, and you become so much more free, and you can experience life in such a different way, in such a more expansive and inclusive way than when you limit yourself to this is who I am, this is what I believe, these are my opinions. There's no need for that. And so what I realized a few weeks ago is that, okay, we have the core, we have the identities, we have the protection mechanisms, and basically what I call all these outer layers that are not the core, but all these outer layers that are around the core, this is what I consider to be ego. This is the part of you that gets anxious if you get feedback. This is the part of you that is afraid to make a mistake. This is the part of you that is trying to protect you. The ego itself is a protection mechanism, And as a result, it wants you to do the same thing in the same way. It wants you to feel safe. And when you realize that this is the function of the ego, and it's fine, and I've said this before also, like, don't go hating on the ego, because if you wouldn't have an ego, you wouldn't be alive. You would already be dead. But if you understand that this is the function of the ego, you can, whenever you encounter an active or overactive ego, you can say, okay, I hear you, I see you, thank you. Thank you for trying to protect me, but I decide it's not needed, I'm okay. Or I decide I'm just going to stick with it, thank you. We're going to do what the ego wants. Either way, it's fine. I just want you to realize, understand, and feel that in any moment in your life, you have the opportunity to decide, am I going to go with the ego or am I going to choose otherwise? So when you understand that the fears that we have of making mistakes, of getting feedback, of losing something or losing someone, stuff like that, when you understand that this is all those layers of the ego, you can also see that in case you do lose those things, or in case you do get hurt, that it's only the outer layers that are getting broken. It's only the outer layers that are getting hurt or shaken up or confused. Because in the very core of who you are, there is this beautiful, untouchable, unbreakable essence that is in no way affected by this outer activity. And this is what I mean with when I say you have nothing to lose. Because yes, if you go ahead and you give that presentation and you mess it up and it's super awkward and it all went wrong, sure, ego is not happy, protection mechanism didn't work. But what did you lose? Nothing, because you cannot lose. You is nothing to lose. There's nothing to be broken. And when you understand that, in fact, you don't have anything to lose, just, just imagine how epic life becomes. When every time you are confronted with a situation in which you're afraid to fail, or you're afraid to whatever, or you're uncomfortable, or you're scared, and you understand, but I have nothing to lose, then you'll probably just do it. And isn't this the most enriching and expanding experience that you could possibly have in your life? Understanding that in no way you are limited, and that in fact, in the very core of who you are already free. And that's it. And sure, rationally speaking, on a level of, okay, but I am a human being living on a planet where I do need to make money for my rent, and if I don't make money, I can lose my house. Or if I don't do my job right, I can lose my job. Yes, in that sense, you can lose things. But again, these are things, objects, money, constructs that can be broken, but you underneath it cannot be broken. You were never broken, and you can never break. So then you start to see that every experience that you have in which something breaks, basically the ego, is actually an opportunity to get even closer to this core. And when you touch this core, when you feel that which you truly are, you have entered a realm in which you will start to see that not only is it in you, it's also in the people around you. It's also in the plants, it's also in the animals, it's also in the sky and in the water. And this is the moment you start to live as a life, not as a story, but as a life. And this is the thing that I'm most passionate about.